Hello and welcome to Spotlight, a golden globe of creative goodness.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening we hear about the Festival Interceltique in Lorient, which as usual has a strong Manx presence. Enjoy the second part of a chat and walk around the wonderful Smitten exhibition at the Loom Gallery with artist Ella Magee. And hear how an arts charity has joined forces with an arts foundation to strengthen its offering to outstanding students in the arts. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. Poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, ceramic, drag, film, mime, punk, social media, on it goes. Lots of others I forget every week. Just email spotlight@manxradio.com. Howard Kane, with an E, at manxradio.com. Love to hear from you. I get a few, I'd like more. So, the spectacular, which is the Festival Interceltique, however you might pronounce that, in Lorient. Interceltique, perhaps. That's Brittany for the uninitiated, despite the bad French accent, is underway as we speak. The event, first held in 1971, would you believe, and came out of a desire to contribute to the development of Breton music and culture and open up the Celtic nations of the British Isles, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, the Isle of Man, of course, Ireland, and northern Spain. And it's had a Manx presence there since year one. From relatively humble beginnings, it's grown to be truly enormous. It makes the TT look like the Castletown Festival in Pulson Park. An estimated 900,000 visitors last year, an audience of millions on television, a vast audience in which to showcase the amazing culture and talent the Isle of Man possesses, of course. This year, a team of around 60 are present there, and when two of them, namely delegate Ailey Sheard and leader of a dance and music group in the Feeney, Ewan Garrett, dropped into the Spotlight studio to tell me more, I began by asking Ailey if the organisation was something of a year-round job for her.
Yes, we're already discussing next year, so we've got the dates. Top secret, but I know which nation is the honoured nation, but that'll be announced during the festival. But yes, we already start thinking about who we're going to bring, what the dates are. We're already thinking about a better way to get everybody there, because this year we've all had to go with the Olympics on. We've all had to go via coach and ferry, so it's going to be a 24-hour trip, isn't it?
Oh my Lord.
So we're going to try and find a quicker way.
And what size of Manx contingent's actually going out this year?
I believe it's just short of 60 people altogether. So we've got the dance group is probably the biggest chunk. There's about 30, about half our delegation is the dance group. And then there's myself and my sister. We have two visual artists this year. So we have Helen Winter as a textile artist, and she'll be doing needle felting workshops out there. And we also have Molly Wade, who goes by the name of Molly Catherine for her art, and she is a fashion designer who works with Vivienne Westwood in London, but is from the island and uses Manx textiles like the tartans and agricultural fabrics in her fashion. So they're both going. We've got the young music group Scran, so they're all coming out. So there's various chaperones with their parents as well, because they're all aged about 12 to 18, so that's quite a mixed group, all very young. We've also, for the first time this year, got a DJ going as well. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And then we have sort of the regulars, like Ruth Kegan will be out there singing on the shared stage with lots of other well-known musicians from the place. And this year we have the Interceltic Music Camp, which is a new project. Because it's the Year of Youth, the festival wanted to do something different, and they've asked each Celtic nation to provide a male and female between the ages of 18 and 25 to come, and they're out there already. They're all working in two different bands. They've made two supergroups made up of somebody from each Celtic nation, so they're out currently, and they'll be performing every single day of the festival, 3 times a day, to showcase the music and the collaboration that they've done whilst working on that this week.
And Ewan, are you a regular, or are you a regular Celtic?
I've been a regular on and off for many years. It's one of those festivals that just draws you in. And I suppose it's a little bit of the mecca for the traditional world of music and dance. So it's one of those places that if you haven't seen, it's really difficult to understand just what it does for our young people and for people in the traditional music and dance scene. It gives them that lift and that understanding, actually. They're not on their own. It's not just a small little thing that happens on the Isle of Man, or maybe when they go to little small festivals. This is a big thing, and hopefully it opens their eyes to the bigger world, and they're not on their own. They're not these perhaps weirdos that sometimes people put them into a field and say, oh yeah, it's just that traditional thing that a few people do. It's huge.
Well, we were just talking about that coming into the studio today, and it is, and we say it every year, it is just the sheer size of the stage you're performing on here, and that, yes, we're used to seeing sort of dance groups and Max Culture and wonderful musicians over here, quite often in fairly small settings, perhaps at Tynwald Day, perhaps down at the Erin Arts Centre, down at the Peel Centenary, at the Black, or wherever the case may be. A wonderful scene, but obviously the Isle of Man's quite a small place. Going across to Lorient is just a whole different ball game in that I think the festival there really makes the TT look like a sort of the Castletown Festival at Pulson Park or something, doesn't it? It is, how many last year did you say?
There was 900,000 visitors to the festival over the 10 days last year.
Which is just absolutely massive.
Yeah, and it's the stadium show, which Nafani will be in most nights as well, as televised, and there's 3 million viewers watching that as well, live.
So it's a bit, is this a bit more nerve-wracking than performing at, say, Tynwald Day?
I think so. I think our young dancers this week in particular, the nerves have started to kick in. I think the excitement is there, but they just realise now, and speaking to people who've been before, just what a big event it is and how special it is. So obviously the nerves are there, wanting to do their very best for themselves, but also for the Isle of Man. So yeah, it's an amazing opportunity for all our musicians and dancers, our young people. It's one of those places that we really encouraged and do our best to make sure everybody's had that experience to go.
And it's great to hear that you say you're talking about young people there, because you're right. As Ellie mentioned there, sometimes, I think you mentioned, people think, oh yes, the folky group, loads of weirdy beardies and sort of people like dressing up, and yet there is that passion among the young people to get involved in the culture, to get involved in the music, to sort of celebrate where they've come from.
Absolutely. We've been really lucky, and both myself and Ailey been involved in the traditional music and dance scene most of our lives, and I think we've probably seen over the last 15-20 years just this huge movement of young people involved, and the standard of music and dance on the Isle of Man has really flourished.
It's incredibly high, isn't it? I just think, it's so
it's
high.
amazing at the moment. The talent that we've got right across the island is something that I suppose in a small place like this, it shouldn't be underestimated, because what we've produced over the last 20 years is nothing short of really special. And some of our musicians that are now world famous, we talk about Tom Collister, Adam Rose, David Kilgallen, Mira Royal, they are all absolutely at the top of the game and now known across the Celtic world. And it's special that they've come from this little place that has let them flourish and let them do all the things that they want to do. So yeah, it's really amazing.
I still haven't actually been in presence. I've seen an awful lot of it on film and spoken to people who've been there. Surely a wonderful place for the island's talents to be seen. Much more from Ellie and June next week.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Last week we enjoyed meeting up with artist Ella Magee down at her exhibition Smitten, currently showing at the Loom Gallery in Laxey. As we walked around the exhibition, I asked Ella to explain more about her multi-levelled work. You can go to exhibitions where it's purely representational. It is, it's something, obviously you can go to abstract, but you could come into this, enjoy it purely as a representational piece of artwork going up and around. Or, as you say, if you stop and study, you're looking at these different levels, as you say, exploring themes of sustainability, of perception, of how we perceive, how we're perceived by others, and inclusion, all sort of coming in to these paintings. Is this something that's important to you, working at these several different levels concurrently?
Yeah, I think so, but on top of that, I also have my experience of being in Singapore, not only living in a diverse community, but also, when I was doing my master's, I had this amazing student next to me. It's sharing a studio called Gersin, and Gersin was actually a Chinese calligraphy artist, working on huge pieces with the most beautiful, delicate calligraphy. The way she was holding her brush, she would explain to me why that's important, and how, masters will be able to recognise each other's calligraphy based on the brushwork and based on the thickness of the brush, or at what point they turn. And, this idea of sort of the use of ink in that way, I don't know if you can see, but I've definitely been massively inspired by Gersin, by being in Asia and using the Chinese inks and the washes. And also there's a drawing over there which I'm drawing and writing down in script rather than across like we do in the West, from left to right. You know, I'm actually writing.
Okay, let's walk across and take a look actually while we're here, because it's right across the gallery here, isn't it? Let's go take a look. And here we go, just on the other side of the gallery, at the top end. And here we go, right, yes. Now that has a distinct sort of Asian feel, doesn't it, coming down in the columns rather than going left to right?
Yeah, so, I mean, I was thinking both about Chinese scripture, but I was also thinking about the idea of a journey. I was also thinking about hieroglyphics, so also down in columns like that. So these sort of ancient languages is what I was thinking about. And so what I was really striking about talking to my uncles about, you know, even the way that land is named on the Isle of Man is passed verbally from, you know, from person to person based on, like, you know, whether it's like, I don't know, clay field, or, you know, that's the knowledge that these farmers have about the geology of the land is sort of being passed from farmer to farmer. And I think there's such a richness of, like, almost like a secret agricultural language, you know, that we don't necessarily know about. And that's the same with the Smit mark. So I'm sort of trying to get this sort of secret language in here that is, you know, that we don't have the same, I don't know, we don't have that much knowledge about. So also, like, ear notches is another thing. So on this drawing here, you can see that there are 3 ear notches on here.
Ah, yes, okay, yes.
So all of them have like different markings that suggest. So here you can see there's some little blue dots that sort of create this pathway up through the drawing. But often sheep make their own paths through the land, which is maybe the quickest way to shelter, the quickest way to water. I just love all that idea of those paths that we make in our lives, and the herding mentality of the sheep, that they are gathered as communities, and so there's lots of little hidden secret messages
all the way through, and again that linking, as we were saying, with your sort of your ancestral heritage here on the island, and then your time spent in the east working in Asia and out in Singapore there, and bringing the two elements together. Again, working in the sort of, as you say, substantially in the exhibition here, it is working either etchings or working in the inks, as you say, using the similar sort of ideas, using the Chinese brushes or the different calligraphy type styles, I think, with these very colourful Smit marks on, I think, pretty much all of the paintings. One way or another, you've got these marks on, which gives it this splash of colour, the reds or the oranges or the blues. So was it something, did you have the idea straight off when you came to this thinking, right, I know exactly where I'm going, or was it something that evolves once you started on the work, so you sort of had more ideas and added more layers to it?
I think actually the drawings, if we go over to those 4 together there, the drawings kind of started there, really. So one of, so this drawing here, it's called The Shed, is actually one of my family members. And so we were talking about that possibly being an art studio for me. So I've spent a long time there, and I was sort of drawing and thinking about would that space be okay to create work. But obviously I've not had seasons for 20 odd years. So the first, I got here, and then there's this mighty wind and like that, this beauty in this ancient space. But actually I've been in Asia where everything is shiny and glass, and so it's there's so many stories to be told. So it started here just in recording, and often I make marks on the surface of a page before I go out onto the field. I call these field work. So it's literally in the field trying to do some drawings, but it's hard to do that quickly when you've got Manx weather. So I often try to make a couple of marks, and then it's also about responding to the marks that I've pre-made when I'm out there, and whether the thing that I sit in front of, whether that works for that piece of paper or another piece of paper, depending on the marks. But I really love the stone walls. I just think that there's so fascinating thinking about, the Isle of Man and those borders and those boundaries. Sometimes they're there to protect, sometimes they're there to keep people out, or, you know, thinking about how the land has been divided up, and that wealth sometimes, or that privilege, or, you know, and so I've been massively thinking about that. But there's, if we go over this way, Howard, I'll show you that these are the two pieces that of the marks that I go out. You know, these two here.
Yeah, yep.
So this is, before I go out, I'll make these like surfaces, if you like, and then respond, just so you know that this is the method.
So this is the methodology. So starting off with the marks on the paper first, or the canvas, and then taking your visual cues from wherever you go out in your fieldwork, as it were.
Yeah. And so, but sometimes I actually ask my children to help me with this, because for me this bit isn't necessarily the most important bit. Well, it is. It's lovely to have their hand in it, and this story, if you like, is not just about me. It's a Manx story, you know, and so to having the next generation, you know, involved as well. But ultimately, it's about play. So they're playing. You can see my daughter's fingerprints here. You know, it's really lovely to have that element of play, and then observe what's around after. You know, but there's often, you know, here you can see there's some circles that are repeated in a grid-like formation. So this is a reoccurring theme in here, but often this means something in art history as well. So if you see, or in line, for example, so if you see a grid, you often think of that being quite a stable. So if you think about it in construction, you'll see a grid being very stable.
Very strong, yeah.
And so, but ordered and organised, whereas this grid here, there is an element of this grid here, but it's not so organised, it's broken down. So there's lots of little clues in there that, you know, could be read in different ways, whereas some of these marks are much more random and more organic, and, you know, so these are lots of introductions to suggestions of different things throughout.
And is that something, again, just finally, because we could chat all day wandering one, and I encourage you to come down here and check out the exhibition of Ella's, which is a beautiful thing to behold. But as we were saying, is it something as an artist, if people came in and enjoyed it purely as representational art and thinking, I really love that, just on the one level, I mean, as you say, they've got all these hidden meanings, some sort of secrets, and as you say, unless you were talking to you, and I know there's explanation in the corner, but are you happy for it to work on all levels or just one level at a time?
Yeah, thanks. That's a really good question. That is important to me, that people have their experience, and I think when you put on an exhibition, you know that it will have a new life, and I think that's a generosity of artists to do that, actually. But at the same time, I also recognise that some people do want to know more, and I don't really want them to not have that, because there's obviously lots of... But as soon as you write it down, so I've written a very vague description at the very beginning of the exhibition, but I have written so much more. But as soon as you write it down, it becomes fact, and you no longer give people the option to have that ambiguity.
Interpret it as they will.
Yeah, so I think that's really important. So, but I am going to do an artist talk on the 24th of August here at the gallery, where I will share the contextual and the function and purpose of this work and why it's important to me. But again, that doesn't mean that it's limited to my interpretation of the work. You know, hopefully people will. But that's why I haven't written it down. In fact, you know, I'll do a talk, and then people will take away again different elements of it, won't they? Will have heard different things. So
absolutely, and that's on the 24th.
Yeah, 24th of August.
A wonderful exhibition, a wonderful artist, and those of a certain age might remember her father, Frank, an artist of a different kind who's made a career in acting internationally, but cut his performing teeth here on the Isle of Man back in the day. Anyone remember Peppermint Palace, Joe Public? Why not drop in to Ella's talk on the 24th of this month to find out more? Finally this evening, we all know about the work done by the Arts Council supporting talented Manx artists and students supporting this show, of course. But my eye was caught by some recent news which floated past the Spotlight desk, that is to say the paper-strewn work surface, which is my corner of the Manx radio empire, about a Manx charity Arts Aid collaborating with the Sovereign Arts Fund to strengthen offerings to talented young artists on the island. To find out more about that, I spoke to Arts Aid Chair Mark Denton.
Arts Aid is a charity that was created in 2018. It was the brainchild of the then Arts Council members, and it was created with the remaining funds from the Isle of Culture in 2014. The members of the Arts Council at that time decided that rather than just taking that money into general expenditure, it should be used to create a better legacy. And it was decided to create a separate charity which would give bursaries to young people on the Isle of Man who want to go off and study in their arts. And the criteria is effectively, so it was set up in 2018 and it's been going for 6 years. And in that time, we have given approximately 30 students about £266,000 in bursaries and grants. The criteria for it is, first of all, is you have to be exceptionally talented. We are looking for people who are going to make a career and a success in their respective fields. It is not. It's been largely performance arts, so musical theatre, singing, instrumentalists, dance, but it is arts in the widest sense. So we also have on our books fine art students, fashion designers, digital designers in the arts world, and so it's quite wide ranging. In addition to the grants, I mean, currently this year we have 17 students on our books and we gave them £65,000. We're just currently in the application process for next year and I'm expecting it to be about the same. Unlike other people that give bursaries, we don't give a fixed amount. We tend to look at the needs of the students. And the object being is to try and level the playing field. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the more well-off parents can send their children wherever they choose, but for some, our funding can be the difference between whether they can actually go or not.
And so are they allowed to get help from government sources via a loan or grant as well, or would it be purely from Arts Aid?
Well, as part of our service, increasingly we've become an art advisory function for the students because they are entitled to student grants, but the level of fees can vary from the institutions that some of our students go to. So, for instance, if the standard fee is £9,250, some of the institutions are twice that. So, student grants doesn't necessarily cover the full cost, and obviously the level of student grants. Does a full maintenance grant cover all the accommodation and travel costs, etc.? Probably not. Most parents usually have to dip in some way, and obviously maintenance grants they reduce quite quickly, so that you don't have to be on a great deal of salary before you don't get any maintenance grants. So we take a holistic view of the students and see what they're getting from grants, making sure they're getting the grants they're entitled to, because in the past we've had kids who have been told that either their course or their institution isn't eligible, but actually they are. So we've sent them back to the Department of Education and they've managed to get at least their fees paid. Mm-hmm. We look at other bursaries that they're getting, and then we look and see what the shortfall is between what they need and what they've got. And we try and then make our awards of a level which are meaningful and which go quite a way to filling that shortfall. And as I say, in some cases it can be the difference between being able to go or not go.
Absolutely. And so now there's been this announcement recently about the collaboration with the Sovereign Arts Fund. So what's happening here then? So this is two obviously coming from a similar background. So what is going to be the benefit of the link between these two charities?
Well, the Sovereign Arts Fund is a venture set up by the Sovereign Trust Company, And they've been holding an art exhibition every year for the last few years, which is open to sixth form students at all of the schools on the Isle of Man. And you've probably seen the exhibition because they get the pieces of art from the students, they put them in a public exhibition. It was previously in the Loom Gallery, and later in the last couple of years it's been in the Strand Centre. And they have a range of prizes for the winners. There's a judge's prize, which is to the artist and to the school, and they have a public vote as well. So the public can go in and they can view all the art pieces, and they can then vote for their favourite. And again, there is a prize then for the student and for the school that they go to. And this has been running for several years, and the winners actually go into their international competition as well. And in the past, I believe some of the Manx students have won that art competition too. A couple of years ago, Sovereign Art Fund asked if they could make ArtsAid their charity of the year. The artwork is sold at auction, and the proceeds all go to charity. And they very kindly made us their charity of the year. And we've just signed a new partnership with them, whereby we will help promote the Sovereign Art Fund and the competition and the auction in particular amongst our contacts. And they have made us effectively their charity of the year for the next 3 years. So we will benefit, and that will go directly into our funding for additional bursaries.
So, of course, the million-dollar question is, anyone listening to this and thinking, you know what, I'm ticking these boxes, it's someone who's passionate about art, is thinking of going away, furthering their career, wanting to work, as you say, in a whole range across the artistic genres, whether it's fashion, digital, performance art or whatever, how would they go about actually applying for help from the fund? Well,
if we are searchable online, and we do regularly mail shot all of the dance schools and the theatre groups and all the drama centres on the island, and we keep them aware that applications are open for the next academic year coming up. And in addition to that, we have our own website, which you can see is on arts-aid.im, and we also feature on the Arts Council's site. They've got a page on their site, not only for the bursaries that they do, but for other sources of funding that are available, and we are featured on that. There is, unfortunately, a little bit of confusion sometimes as to whether Arts Council and ArtsAid are the same thing. And we have had students who have come to us afterwards saying, I applied to the Arts Council, I didn't get it, I didn't realise you were a separate thing. So we are always trying to make this message clear that we are a separate charity. And it was a separate charity because we're able to go out and get sponsorship from other sources, corporate sources or other charitable sources who want to support children and further their educational aims.
And it's been said often before on this programme, but we punch well above our weight on the Isle of Man, don't we? The amount of talent we seem to produce in the artistic world, it seems to way outweigh the size of our population. It
is fantastic. I mean, I got involved with this because when I was in my working life, my company used to sponsor a lot of the shows on the island. Not only like the Taylorian and the Douglas Choral Union shows, the big ones, but also all the dance shows. And also art exhibitions, and that's why the Arts Council originally asked me to get involved. And latterly, I've even been in shows, so you get to see all the students that are up and coming, and it's a great way to spot the talent. And sometimes if we don't hear from a student that we're expecting to hear from, we'll go out and chase them and sort of say, why haven't you applied? Because we know you're going away and we're interested to support you.
Mark says he's always proud to see how well many of the students they've helped support have done in their chosen spheres, and how success stories like those of Sam Barks helps to put the Isle of Man on the map for millions. That's about it this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to maxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it while spending another week waiting in vain for a Sunday paper to turn up on the Isle of Man? See you next week, when we'll be hearing about a children's poetry trail, amongst other joys. Until then, look after yourselves, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.